Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about parts of a check as well as how to write a check. Now there's different ways that people use checks. My particular way to use checks is to pay some of my bills, specifically my electric bill and my water bill. Things that I can't really pay online without a fee or without a major cost. Um, so checks are also something that you will get as an employee. Employers generally pay employees with checks. Now, there are different ways that this happens. Some get direct deposited into your checking account, where others you will actually receive a hard copy check. Now, usually when you go to work for an employer, this is an option to either get the hard copy check or to get it direct deposited. It depends on your employer. Now, like I said, we're going to learn about checks. So here is an example of what a plain check looks like. Every check's going to look slightly different, but the same information is going to be on the check as well as roughly in the general area. So a check is just a slip of paper that allows you to make payments from your bank account to companies or other individuals. And so it's not just for you, it's also other people use these as well. Next part we're going to look at is the check number. So we're really going to focus in on each part of the check. And first we're going to talk about the check number. Now the check number is usually located in the upper right hand corner. It's usually also the last 4 digits or so on the bottom. We'll talk about those other numbers later, but right now we're just talking about the check number. Now the check number will help you keep track of your payments by each specific check. So each time you write a check, you should write the check number, the date, and all the other information down, especially when we learn how to balance our checkbook. But the check number is really an organizational piece as we go along. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is your personal information. Usually it's located in the upper left-hand corner. Each style of check is slightly different, but generally this is where your information is going to go, or the owner of the check. So it's usually going to have your first and last name. It's going to have your mailing address. Some will include your phone number, some will not. It depends on your style of check. So obviously this is a fake account. It would be kind of unprofessional to use my own, and that's not information that I want everyone having. So I'm a student would be where your name would be, and then would be your address and your phone number. Oops, wrong direction. Next way we're going to talk about is the bank information. Now each bank has different information, and usually the information that they put on here is for their headquarters. So it may not be your specific branch, but it's going to be where the headquarters for that bank is. And so they'll usually include some sort of emblem. They're going to have their mailing address. Some will include their phone number, where others will have their web address. So each bank is going to be slightly different, but that information is always also going to appear on the check. The next thing we're going to talk about is the routing number. Now, routing number is specific to each bank, and it helps with transactions. Like I said, it's specific to each bank, and it helps with doing transactions. So it just identifies the issuing bank, meaning your bank. Okay. Then the next set of numbers, so you'll see these little dots here, sometimes they're lines, that separates the numbers. So this is the routing number, where this is your checking account number, which is obviously going to be different for each person. But that's your checking account number. Next we're going to talk about is the date. So here now that we've talked about some of the parts on the check, now we're really going to talk about how to write a check and have an example of each part. So this is where you're going to write today's date. So the day that you write your check is going to appear here. So an example would be February 14th of 2017. Okay. Next we're going to talk about where we write who we're paying this to. This is the pay to the order of line. It is also known as the payee. So this is who you're writing your check to. My example is going to be for Emera Maine, which is my electric bill. So my payee will be Amira Main. Okay? And so that's who it's going to be paid to. Now, if you want it written out to yourself, you could write cash or specifically your name to get cash from your bank or specific other vendors that accept personal checks. But this is who it's going to be paid to. Okay? Next, we're going to talk about this box, which doesn't look like a box so much on this particular check, but there's always a box, and this is where you're going to write the numerical amount. Okay, so this is how much you're writing your check for, but this is going to appear as numbers. So the amount I'm going to write my check for is $51.82, and so I have my numbers written in there for the amount that I want my check to be for. Okay. Next, this line, which doesn't really have a title, but it's the line that you're going to write the amount on. So this is where learning cursive comes in real handy. We are going to write the amount, so if you remember my amount, it was $51.82. We are going to write $51.82 on this line. And this is where we write in cursive. So, I have now written $51.82 out of 100 cents. So this is how we would write our amount. Now, if you had 0 cents, as in nothing, you would just have 0 over 100 with the line. And that's going to just, putting this line here prevents someone else from writing some other amount in there. So, this is how we would write the amount on the amount line. Next, we're going to talk about the memo or the for line. Now, this line is used to write notes or your account numbers to help you remember what you wrote the check for. Now, some are going to say memo, where others are going to say for. Now, so for my example, I'm writing that it's for my electric bill, and this is my fake account number for my electric bill. When you're paying bills, it's really helpful if you include your account number, so that way if it gets separated from your paper that you mail it in with, they can easily access your account. And also make sure that they put that money towards the right account. Okay? The next thing we're going to look at is the last part, and this is where you sign your name. And this is also another part where cursive comes in real handy. So this is the signature line, and this is where you're going to sign your name. Now, if you write a check and do not sign your name, you cannot, or anyone cannot cash this check because it is not authorized by you. So signing your name authorizes whoever, the payee, or the other institution to cash your check, okay, and to give that money to the specific payee or the person who the check is for. So, this is where you're going to sign your name in cursive, and voila. I now have a completely filled out check, and this would pay my electric bill for this month. Another example I have for you, just to quickly go over everything, and I color-coded, and don't mind that it's slightly crooked, but here's all the parts broken down, color-coded and everything. So this is everything that we just went over, and I'd like you to use your notes, the check vocabulary, fill those in, as well as making sure that you practice writing and labeling your own check. All right, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the lesson.